Okay, welcome to the first workbench video for the Fake RC channel. If you're familiar with my other channel, you've probably seen this workbench before. I've tried to zoom right in on it so you don't see the mess. But basically, I've got a car, I'd like to go through it. This car I think has a problem, but I'm not sure yet, so I'd like to try and replicate the problem and then see if I can diagnose it and hopefully fix it. So, without further ado, this is the car in question. This is an Eachine EAT15. I've got the box right here. No editing or minimal editing on this channel. EAT15, EAT15. It's a four-wheel drive, 1/16th scale, I think. 1/16th, ready to run rally car. I got this for Christmas. It was second-hand. It is the brushless version. I run a couple of others that are basically identical to this, but not this brand. And what can I say? I am a sucker for a radio control rally car. And so when this came up, for the ridiculously low price that it was, I called my dad and said, "Can you pick this up for me?" And he wound up giving me the money back, and he gave me this for Christmas. So thanks, Dad. So the problem with this car, well, what I'll do, I'll go through it, take the top off it, and then I'll try and talk through the problem with it. I have taken the R-clips out already, and you might hear Billy the workshop dog in the background. Hopefully it won't be too much of a nuisance, but you never know. So it's got 4 clips. The body does pop off. Now I was told that the owner of this before me had done some modifications, so I don't know whether or not they're good modifications or not. I do have a few spares for these cars, so I did take it for a drive to test it out, and when I drove it I did notice a few things. So I will get it up on a stand. There we go, look at that, eBay's finest. Is that's better? Okay, and I'll pause where I need to, hopefully. I can see there is some silicone down here, so obviously the little boot around these servo wires has cracked or broken away, and so they've had to do some work there. There's a fresh zip tie in here. I'm concerned that the end of this zip tie might be fouling on the metal drive shaft in here, so I might snip that away shortly. That might lead you to figuring out what I think the problem is. But things look okay, things turn, everything seems fairly sort of free. Might be that the diffs are a little bit tight, not really sure. He mentioned something about the differentials, and I don't want to go and preempt that. I think what I should probably do is pause, I'll put a battery in it and see if we can replicate the problem. So, in the words of Big Clive, I'll need to come up with my own version, but one moment please. And we're back. Batteries in. I've got a few cars that run this particular kind of battery, so I have a few of them around. This is only, what should I say, storage charge, but it should be enough to just run up and try and figure out what's going on. Now the brushless power on is here. Normally on the brushed versions it's actually on the side here. They all run this same transmitter. This one says Eachine, I've got one that says Pinecone, and I've got one that says UDI RC as well. I believe these are the SG model of cars. I think there's like SG1603 to 16106. There's a Mini, there's a Volkswagen, there's a Porsche, there's a Ford Focus type rally car, and then there's this one. And then there's a couple of, I think there's a Mini Hoonigan. So there's quite a few different ones. This, I say, this is the Lancia type. So let's put on the transmitter. I did make sure there were batteries in it. And turn this on. There we go. See if we can pick up the problem. To me that sounds a little bit noisy, so I think the first port of call is just checking that zip tie, and then I'll come back to it. So I'm going to take the battery out while I do some work, or at least unplug it, turn it off and come back. So one moment please. Alright, I've gone to my crappy snips drawer and I have found the set of crappy snips, so let me just snip that off. Snip. And now see if this will actually come away. Oh, maybe not. I might need to remove the battery first. Will it maybe come away now? See, this is what leads me to think that this is the problem. I think this drive shaft is rubbing on this because somebody has yanked the zip tie down into there. And now when you come out, let me see if I can prise this out with some unreasonable force. Nope. Nope. Come on out, you blighter, you. So, right, I will find something with which I can poke and prod, and I shall return. One moment, please. I have returned from the prying drawer. Let me just see if I can poke this past there. There it is. Okay. Now that's out of the way. We will plug in the battery again. And on with the transmitter. On with the power. Lovely. And what do we have? We still have noise. So now we're on to, let's check the differentials. Maybe it's just bad mesh. So I want to check down here to start with. Because it does sound, I can't really stick my ear in front of the camera, but it is much more pronounced at this end. So I'm going to say that it's possibly a poor mesh. Maybe too tight, maybe too loose, and the teeth are sort of skipping. So once again, you know the drill. I'll pause and I'll whip this diff cover off. Probably this whole back brace will need to come off. One moment, please. We're back, and this screw is absolutely munted, which maybe that's a good sign. Maybe that means that I know that I'm going to find the problem here, because all roads are leading to this screw. Perhaps. Maybe I should pause because otherwise you're just going to get shots of my hand in the way. I'll pause when I get this cover off. One moment. Alright, we're back. Yeah, it does look like, I don't know if you can hear that, but that is definitely the noise. And this mesh is so tight, but it doesn't look like there is any form of adjustment on that mesh with this motor mount. So I will take these screws out and I'll flip it over to see, but it might just be a case of pack it with grease and it goes until it goes no more. But you never know, maybe there will be something that can be done for it, maybe not. They're the long ones. These are the two super long ones that have to go at the front of that housing. So as much as I didn't really want to be stripping this car apart any further, I have also popped off the shocks. I've just pulled that cord back through the body post there. It does have a motor mount there, so let's flip that over. Let's see what can be made of it. I did swap screwdrivers as well. This is the moment where we say, try not to lose the screw, because maybe there's a way that the motor can just be tweaked ever so slightly back. It doesn't need much, but a little bit will make a big difference. But I'm not confident at all that there'll be anything that I can do. Some of these ready to runs, they don't give you that much leeway. Put that one there. we go. So you'll see it when I see it if there is any form of adjustment. I mean, there's, unless there's slotted holes, there's nothing there. That is pretty much fixed, I would say. Unless these are I would say that's it, but you know what, we'll make the decision after we take these out. Again, to save shots of my hands being in the way, we will come back after I've undone these screws. Okay, I admit I am a little bit deeper in than I thought I would be, and Windows is doing that fun thing. Okay, so what's happened is there's no adjustment on the motor mount, so the next job is to clear out this globule of hair and schmutz from inside here as much as I can, and then I'm going to put some different grease inside of the casing. What's there looks okay, but it does look a bit thin. Sorry, this is the stuff that I use. It's called Inox MX6, not a sponsor. As you can see up in there is a lot of grime and dirt and dust, which I don't think is helping. I think if you fill your diffs with oil, that's fine, but I'm of the opinion it should be maybe a little bit thicker if it is plastic on metal. So I'm just going to give this as much of a clean out as I can get. Doesn't mean it's going to be perfect, but you can see there's a lot of fluff in there. So I kind of wonder whether the person, because this is quote unquote sealed, whether the person actually just stuck some grease in there after the fact, or whether they did this as a modification beforehand. But either way, it's going to get a bit of a clean out now, and hopefully this gear is it's synthetic, it's also food safe, so if you're eating a sausage roll, that's okay. I mean, it looks okay in there, things are moving nicely, but I'm going to put this in. It is quite a lot thicker. You've really got to work the tube. It's food safe, so if you're eating a sausage roll, you can still munch in while you're putting this in. I'm just going to put a squirt in. Not a squirt, it's more of a glob, a snot. Who knows, maybe this is what the person used, maybe this is what I've got to look forward to. I'll try and put this somewhere so I can... There we go. That's a decent squirt. And then what I've heard to do with these differentials is to put them in, tighten them up, and then back them off half a turn. So I will attempt to do that as well without losing the screws. I might just move this out of the way just so I'm not up in the camera all the time. There's my screwdriver. So I've heard you tighten these up. Tighten them right up. Well, it doesn't look like these would like to tighten. Looks like only two will. Jump cut to the end. Okay, that was a bit problematic, but I did loosen off each of the screws on the differential by about 3/4 of a turn. I've cleaned out under the spur gear as much as I can. I've cleaned out the inside of the housing for the differential. I've greased the differential, and I think I've got all the axles back in. From what I can tell, which is not very much because I'm no expert, I'm only quite new at this, it just looks like a lot of stuff has been picked up, and whatever grease was in there, or oil, it was quite thin, and that has meant that it's quite prone to sort of leaking out around the place. I mean, there's fur and dirt and dog hair or whatever else there, so there's been a fair amount of stuff that I've picked up on the old jocks. So I will continue to give this a bit of a clean out, and then I will swap over and repeat the process on the front and come back to you when that's done. We'll see if I've made any difference or made it worse. And we're back. Took a long time to get here. With the fun of being a beginner, I have done a number of mistakes that I can now tick off my list, including backwards differentials. So I'm happy to report that all the changes I've made tonight have made no difference. It might be slightly quieter, I'm not sure, but I cleared out a lot of the gunk. There is a lot more grease in the diffs than there was before. I have reduced the rubbing of that zip tie. I think I've kind of done everything that I could possibly do to make this as good as I can. So now I just need to put it back together and hopefully take it for a rip. Pause for effect. There we go, we're back. It's got great lights on it. There's a button somewhere here. Change the lights. It's just a cool little car. Oh, and it's got a little tail light, for the exhaust. So there we go. Maybe some oil shocks. Maybe that's an easier video to do next time. But thanks for sticking with me. Give me a thumbs up if you liked what you saw. If you didn't like what you saw and you thought I bumbled around too much, just tell me in the comments as well. All interaction's good interaction. Alright, I will see you on the next one. Bye.